What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, coming at you with a rare Edison format deck profile, this time featuring Quickdraw Dandy Warrior, which is, the most recognizable Edison deck, especially for someone who hasn't been, very involved in the format. It's the deck that won SJC Edison, right? It's the poster child for Edison format. Now, if you're very versed in Edison format, you play a lot of it, you'll know Quickdraw isn't the most popular deck. It's not considered the best deck by a mile. However, it is one that always stays somewhat relevant in the meta, sees a good amount of play, and I think has undergone some of the most transformation for Edison decks that were classic Edison decks to modern Edison decks. Overall, the deck has changed a lot, and this deck is featuring a ton of the new technology and new theory that goes in to building decks in the modern age. Before jumping into it, I do want to let you guys know we are super close to 15,000 subscribers. At the time of recording this video, I don't know when this is going up, but if you do enjoy the Edison content or you just like what I do here on the channel, feel free to like and subscribe. It really helps me out what I do here. And with all that being said, enough wasting time, let's get into this Quickdraw Dandy Warrior deck profile. So some of this stuff is going to seem very standard and familiar even for people who don't play that much Edison, because there are some things in Quickdraw that just really don't change. I am on 2 Quickdraw Synchron. This isn't a card you really ever want to play 3 of, simply because you don't want to open too many of it or even see too much of it, but you do want to. It does go into some of your more explosive plays, and yeah, it's the namesake of the deck. This is how you're accessing a lot of your really powerful synchros and abusing cards like Dandelion. Obviously, Dandelion, one of the other namesakes of the deck in Quickdraw Dandy Warrior. This is one of the most abusable cards ever, and this deck abuses it to the max in so many different ways. We actually have more ways than old Quickdraw does to abuse this card. It's just super powerful. Obviously, this card's been banned in Modern forever because of links, but this card has always been powerful. It's been hit on the list so many different times in so many different ways. We are going to play the 2 Quickdraw and the 2 Dandelion. For the rest of the plants, I have the 2 Lone Fire, which is very standard. You're going to play 2 Lone Fire to access either your Dandelions, but it's also a debris target, and it can get you your Titanial, which is, again, another big part of Quickdraw is Titanial. This is the card you really don't want to draw. You don't want to see Titanial in your opening hand. That being said, she gives you some insane matchups, and she's a super huge boss monster. You'll want to cut this card in some games, but you just can't. This card is so pivotal to so many different matchups like Frogs and Vayu, where Titanial is just a house, and it can just make it makes Lone Fire a boss monster out of nowhere, where Titanial can just sit and win you games. And something a little different is I'm on 3 Debris Dragon, and that's mostly because the olden days people would play 2, and I still think 2 is a viable option. I like 3 because this is just one of your power plays. You want to see this as often as possible, and you want to see, I don't even mind seeing multiple of it. Also, its stat line is pretty good. Even when you draw it and you don't have a live target, it's 2k defense, which, isn't amazing or anything to set a 2k defender, but it's not terrible either. This is how you're accessing a lot of your synchro plays, and you do a lot of milling in this deck, so if you ever mill too many Debris Dragon, if you mill 2 of them, you still have 1 in your deck to access. It is one of the power plays of the deck, lets you access Black Rose or Iron Chain. It's very, very good. Then I have the 1 Super Nimble Mega Hamster and the 3 Raikou. This is a pretty standard Edison package. Again, this deck is playing a very good stuff sort of approach, right? It's just 40 good cards, almost like GOAT control in GOAT format. I mean, Vayu Turbo does it too, but it's more like dark good stuff. Raikou is an insane Edison card, and Hamster is the highest ceiling for Raikou, as long as you're in the opening turns of the game. 1800 defense into a +1 into essentially a +1, and then that leads into other plays. It's insane. It does a lot of your milling for you, which gets Dandelion in the graveyard and fills your grave for Avarice, so it's a card that you definitely want to maximize at 3. For some powerful 1-ups, we have the 1 Card Trooper, just an insane card in the format. I mean, the milling is great, the drawing is great, 1900 is just a great stat line, and it's a debris target. Card Trooper is just super insane. And then we have 1 Sangan. This searches Quickdraw. This searches, I think every card in the deck except Titanial so far, actually. Yeah, this has searched every single monster we have seen in the deck, minus Titanial. 3 of the true face of Edison format, Caius the Shadow Monarch. We're maximizing 3. Again, some people play 2 because it's another one of those cards like Debris Dragon you might not want to see too many of, or open it too many copies in your opening hand. However, Caius is, again, one of the boss monsters of the deck. It's something you want to see almost constantly. It's a way we abuse Dandelion, right? We're getting all these free tokens. If we're not synchroing with them, we're going to want to tribute some of them for Caius, right? Caius does so many things in Edison format, outing so many threats, getting you constant +1s. We have other ways to abuse Caius in this list, which is another reason that it's sort of an updated take on Quickdraw. So running 3 of this, especially with another card I'm going to show you guys, is going to make so much sense. And Caius, again, just one of the most powerful cards in Edison format, and just about everyone knows it. One Gores, there's not much to say here. It's Gores, like you're playing Gores. And then one Tragodia. We don't have any like continuous spells or traps that sit on the field very often, except for maybe like one. And yeah, Gores is phenomenal. And then Tragodia is also very good, sometimes stronger than Gores. These two cards are insane. I'm not running as many purple cards as I'd like, so you're definitely wanting to play these. And they're monsters, so they fit with like all the milling for Pot of Avarice. The card I was mentioning when we were to the Caiuses is I'm playing one Treeborn Frog, which this card isn't in every quick draw list. This is more of a new thing that's been going around recently, I guess for the last year or so. Treeborn has just seen an uptick in playing quick draw, and it's truly insane in this deck. Like, it feels better than how Treeborn feels in Frog Monarch sometimes, because there is a little bit more versatility in what you can do with this card. Now, it's not as live as often because it's not your main focus, and you do set back row in this deck, so there are times where Treeborn's not doing quite as much, but it changes like your synchro lines quite a bit. It gives you just an infinite floater. It makes the Caiuses more live. It makes drawing Titanial feel less bad. I really like the Treeborn, and it's another card you can mill off of your Rykos that feels very good. So yeah, one Treeborn Frog. And we also run Foolish Burial, so that does come up. Then lastly is Cyber Valley. This is also some new technology in the quick draw deck. It's not like Cyber Valley's never been played in this deck or people haven't tinkered around with it. Cyber Valley is a pretty popular card in Edison as well. But specifically in quick draw in a list like this, we are running 1-for-1 where the only two targets are the Cyber Valley and the Treeborn Frog. Go ahead and spoil the 1-for-1. So like the new technology is essentially 1-for-1 Dandelion, which is used in multiple formats like Tengu format. You can get Cyber Valley and then banish the token in Cyber Valley and draw 2 cards. And that's just, you know, another way to abuse Dandelion. This card's also just so strong with so many different things. We have a lot of free bodies because of the tokens. We have cards like Brain Control where you can abuse this card. It's just a really strong, like, standalone card, and running one of it with the 1-for-1 has felt pretty good. I really enjoyed it. It has made this deck do some really crazy things, and I really like it. Sort of the same theory with the 3 Debris Dragon and the 3 Caius. Going on in the spells, I'm on 3 Pot of Avarice, and this is like the card for quick draw. This is one of quick draw's main selling points. Is it's probably the best Avarice deck in the format. There's other decks that can play Avarice. Like, you can even play it in Frogs because of Substitute, and people have done that. There's other decks that do a lot of crazy milling, a lot of like piles almost, or Monster Mash decks might play this at 1 if they're on Magical Merchant or something, right? Like, Avarice has other good decks, but Quick Draw has always been Avarice's probably best deck, and the +1 in Edison feels very, very powerful. Now, yes, I'm on 3, so there is a chance you draw like a lot of it early game, and maybe it's not good, but we have so many ways to mill with the multiple Rykos, the Hamster, we do run Charge, we have the Lone Fires, we have did I already say Card Trooper? There's just a lot of ways to get monsters in your graveyard, and as the game progresses, this card gets infinitely more powerful. And because you're doing so much milling, it would really be unfortunate if you milled 2 and only played 2, so we're on the 3 Pot of Avarice. 1 Charge for the Rykos. This card just essentially is like Hamster as another way to access Ryko, but it instantly gets you the 3 mills, so there are upsides to this card over Hamster. Like, instantly getting 3 mills means you might see Dandy right then and there, and then you can also summon Debris Dragon, and your plays get pretty crazy. So the 1 Hamster, 3 Ryko, 1 Charge is a pretty known ratio in Edison format. Some powerful 1-ofs that help you turbo through your deck a little bit. We have the Foolish and the 1-for-1. 1-for-1 only has 2 targets, but that's like fine. It does mean like really late game it might be dead outside of recycling something with Pot of Avarice. But it does just make your deck insanely fast comparatively without it, because discarding Dandy out of your hand, summoning Debris Dragon after getting Cyber Valley, makes Stardust turn 1, Cyber Valley drew 2. It goes absolutely bonkers. And Foolish Burial, dumps Dandelion, dumps Treeborn Frog. Those are very powerful plays as well. Can fuel your grave for Avarice. They both have a place in the deck just to essentially make your game plan go a little bit faster, and they're both very powerful, and I find they're pretty solid Sideouts as well because they're not like super mandatory. I'm deciding to play 1 enemy controller. This card's very strong because, again, it's another way to abuse Dandelion, which is like the whole point of Quick Draw. It works really well with the Cyber Valley, it works great with the Caiuses, it works great with the Treeborn Frog. It has so much synergy in the deck, and that's one thing I really like. Another thing, essentially this slot is taking, like, often people will play either 1 Book of Moon or 1 Compulsory as a way to like dodge Brain Control, and it's just like they're good 1-ofs, so you don't want to see too many of them, but they are useful in their situations. Compulse has been more popular recently, I think. Econ is the one I'm choosing to play in that slot as my 1 flex, because I think it does work with so many cards in the deck, and Econ is a very versatile, powerful card. I've been enjoying it a lot, so I'm on the one enemy controller. Brain Control, Heavy Storm, MST, some staples. You're running these because they're absurdly powerful. Well, I guess MST isn't like absurdly powerful, but definitely a good enough one of. And now onto the purple cards, which are some of the best cards in Edison format. I have allotted myself 7 slots, which isn't as much as I'd like, but when you're doing so much milling, you just want to see more monsters, right? Like, you don't want to mill too many spells and traps. In your quick draw game plan, seeing too many purple cards kind of slows you down a lot. So I'm on 2 Bottomless. This is like the only non-one-of trap I'm playing. I think Bottomless is just one of the strongest purple cards in Edison format. A little bit better than D-Prison, depending on your deck and like what you're trying to stop. But I think, yeah, Bottomless is just a little bit overall better. 1 Mirror Force, 1 Torrential, just very powerful purple cards. You're wanting to run these, obviously, they're staples. Then we have 1 Call of the Haunted, very good in quick draw in general because you have so many things that if they MST or heavy this card, you can activate it and get a plus, like Dandelion, Sangan, Card Trooper. Just very good overall. Maining a Dust Shoot, this card is disgusting. Should have been banned. This card is so gross. And then 1 Judgment. So these are more one of, not exactly staples in every deck, like not every deck plays these in the main deck, but if they're not mained, they're usually sided, or if your deck's really bad with Call. Call is the only card where Gores is like questionable. I mean, maybe sometimes Judgment too, but it's more than often fine. These cards are great. That's it for the main deck. Going on into the extra deck, which is always one of the more interesting extra decks in Edison format because it plays so many non-standard cards. I am missing 1 card, and I will explain that when I get there, but it's just, it's not worth picking up at this very moment, so yeah. 2 Iron Chain Dragon, because you're on 3 Debris. This comes up with Raikou very often. One of the things you can actually make, and it kind of climbs up into another card. The card I'm missing is Trident Dragion, where you take an Iron Chain Dragon and your Debris Dragon and make Trident Dragion. But for those who don't know, in Modern right now, Tenpai Dragon is being released, and they want that card. So that card is an absurd, overpriced piece of cardboard right now. So I don't have it. But you will want to end up taking out 1 Chimera Tech I'm running for a Trident Dragion if you can, if you have access to it. 2 Drill Warriors, continuing on with 6s. This is like one of the namesakes of the deck. You just want to abuse this card with Dandelion. It's really strong versus so many different matchups. It can be very annoying for the opponent to deal with. It does have a couple of weaknesses, but I'm going to play 2 because sometimes you want a second, and if one gets outed, you want a second as well. Turbo Warrior, this card has come up clutch for me many times. There's just some matchups or game states where you know your opponent has Caius and that Caius might ruin your day. So you make Turbo Warrior and then Caius is essentially just irrelevant. This card's very powerful. For 7s for Quick Draw Synchron, I am on 1 Junk Archer, which is pretty good to outstuff and often goes into game in several different ways. Kind of the same thing with Nitro Warrior. I love this card. First of all, his stat line is just huge and he gets bigger and he can swing twice. Yeah, him comboed with some spell cards is nasty, and he has won me many a game. He's very strong. Some Debris targets, obviously the 1 Black Rose Dragon, and then 2 Ancient Fairy, just because you'll climb into these more often than other things you could run in their slots. It's not like you want to make 2 Ancient Fairy, but sometimes it's just one of the better things to go for. You're kind of locked into certain Synchro monsters because Debris can only go into Dragons, and you have Quick Draw Synchron that can only go into Synchrons. You don't have any generic tuners in the deck, so that's why the extra deck looks a little weird. In the same vein, we have 2 Stardust, which is more standard, but this is just one of Debris Dragon's main targets. And then a Red Dragon Archfiend, because he is also a dragon and a huge beat stick, and if your opponent is walling up behind tokens, or maybe they're on Amaryllis or something, Red Dragon Archfiend's effect can be pretty good. And then 2 Chimera Tech. This is simply because I don't have a Trident Dragion, otherwise I would be playing Trident Dragion over this Chimera Tech here. And yeah, these are just because you will often side Cyber Dragon. But I'm not showing a side deck in this video, but you probably have Cyber Dragon in your side deck, and if you do, you're going to want to run Chimera Tech. Alright, that's going to do it for the Quick Draw Dandy Warrior deck profile. I hope you guys enjoyed. Of course, Edison format isn't something I upload a lot, but for the community that likes it, I hope you enjoyed this profile. Let me know what you think of Quick Draw down below, any innovations you've been making. I love this deck for the fact that it's still being innovated so many years later. I mean, this deck is 14 years old at this point. Of course, it hasn't been being innovated for 14 years, but at least like 5 years of its life it's been being innovated. So yeah, it's a really fun deck, and I hope you guys enjoyed the profile. Leave a like, subscribe. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.